Okay, so now I'm gonna show you a workflow for creating trees that I find to be really fast and really efficient. So I opened one scene that contains one of the trees inside CryEngine, and right next to it we're gonna create another trunk and another branches. So my first advice is to rely on modularity as much as possible. What I mean by that is that you need to create maybe like 3 or maximum 4 variations of branches and 3 or 4 variations of like fully dense branches with green leaves and stuff like that, and only with that, just by rotating, scaling and placing properly, you can create really nice looking trees. So that is really a time saver. But let's get started. Now I don't usually use reference photos that I follow 100%. That's why I only use this picture to get a basic grasp of the shape of the trunk that I want to create. Now in this case, this is a pretty young tree. Its trunk, it's not that thick and twisted like on the really big old trees. So the way to place a picture inside 3ds Max that you could use as a reference, it's by, if you go here, this icon, it's for switching between the selected viewport and showing the 4 viewports. So what I like to do is, for example, if I'm using the right viewport, I go click here, go to viewport background and click here configure viewport background. So now what you need to do is just first to click this lock zoom and pan. It should be on. This should be clicked also, match bitmap, and from here you just select the file with the picture of the tree that you want to use. So then you should just click apply to active view, okay, and the picture should appear here. Now the reason that here the trunk it appears much smaller than the picture is that first I model the trunk following the photograph, and then I just rescale it using as a reference this cube like in the previous clips, that it's with a human size. So we're gonna start from the beginning. To make the trunk, I start by going here, and instead of going on the first geometry tab, I go to the second one, the shapes, and I just click line. From there, the first thing that you need to do is go here and click this enable in renderer, enable in viewport, and generate mapping chords. That will not create only a spline, but it will create a geometry around the spline, and that it's really a time saver. Instead of using bevel hundreds of times just to sculpt a branch, you can very easily just paint the spline, and it will automatically generate the geometry around it. And second, you need to tweak the thickness and the sides. Now bear in mind that it's a good idea to have an initial idea of the poly count that you need for this tree, because if you have a big level inside CryEngine and you want to put a lot of trees, it's not a good idea to make your tree too high poly. For example, if your tree is something like 10,000 triangles, that would really kill the performance in the level. So I think that a really good poly count for tree is something like 2.5 or 3, maximum 4K if the tree it's not really with very complex branches and roots and stuff like that. If it's just an ordinary tree like this one, you should make it something around 2-3K maximum. Okay, so and that means that here from the sides that this slider will Basically it says how many sides your cylinder that will be following your spline will have. So 12, it's too much. I think that 5, and in some cases even 4 for the smaller branch, it's the perfect number. So for the big trunk, for now I'm just gonna put something like 6 or 7, but for the smaller branch we're gonna use a much smaller value. Now the other thing that you need to do, you should go here on the interpolation and just make it to step 0 or 1, because at step 6, after each click and drag of the spline, it will create unnecessarily dense mesh, and you lose a lot of time cleaning it up and optimizing it. So it's a good idea to first make the trunk a little bit low poly, and then you can freely add more topology on it, more triangles. Okay, so I'll leave it to 1. Now here the creation method. Usually I like to set the first one to corner and the drag type to smooth. And then when you're ready, you can maximize, of course, your screen, and then just click once and drag. So now you can see that the thickness, it's too low. So Control Z, and we need to make this something like probably 0.6. Yeah, this is much better. Okay, so now just click and drag, and when you get to the point where you want the spline to continue on the right, just click again, and without releasing the button, just hold and move on the right, and then release. And again, if you click, it will create another point of the spline, and after that you can again change directions and continue sculpting the spline. So again, just if you just click once, it will create this angle shape, but if you just click and hold, it will create this smooth transition. So again, just by clicking a few times and following some basic shape from a photo, you can create the one of the trunks. So double click to and right click to finish the spline. And now next what we need to do, it's again, I'm gonna toggle the viewport view, and by pressing Z the camera will zoom on the trunk. So now we should add some more variety to this trunk, because right now it's oriented only on the one axis and it's pretty flat looking from this side. So what you can do, it's just click here on the pause icon on the line that we just created and select vertex. And that lets you select any of these big points that mark every click with the mouse during the creation of the spline. So basically now you can just select any of them and just move them up around a bit, and that will really help you create organically looking branches and trunks for trees. Okay, so something like that. And when you're ready, just click and convert it to editable poly. So now what we need to do is, okay, for example, this trunk is gonna be in the ground, so we don't need this face, we're just gonna delete it. And now we should create our material for the tree before we continue. So now I already created one material, but for the tree we're going to need multi-material with 3 IDs. The first ID, it's for the bark. of the trunk. The second material, it's for the diffuse texture with the alphas of the branches and the leaves that we created in the previous video. And the third material, it's for the collision mesh. So yeah, for starters, I'm gonna create it from scratch just to show you how it's done. So just go here, again click on standard, select multi-sub object, from the set number just type 3, and let's set the first one. Again, you should set it to Crytek shader, diffuse, uncheck of course this walk icon if it's active. And now just select your diffuse, specular and normal map. Now this is the slot for the normal map, as you can remember from the first prop that we created. Alright, so just press this icon if you want to go up one level, and again. Now this material, it's ready. We need the second one. So I'm just going to drag and drop here this one, and I'm gonna set to copy. I do this just so that it preserves all this Crytek shader and options like that, so I only need to change the diffuse and the normal maps. Okay, so from here let's select our diffuse, specular map. I didn't show how to create the specular map, but I'm going to talk on the subject a little bit in the next video. For now I'm just gonna load the maps. Now for this alpha texture I don't really need a normal map. Some guys like to create normal maps, and it's looking really fine if you have these big leaves and plants around the player, but for green leaves that are high up in the air and you can't go directly to them, a normal map it's a little bit unnecessary. And again, here we should, you should choose standard material, click physicalize, physical proxy, and choose some color that can be easily recognized as a collision. Okay, so our material is set. So now what we need to do, it's just go and assign this material to the trunk. So now you see that nothing would really happen, and it looks this way because this trunk doesn't have a very nice UV coordinates. So what you need to do, it's just apply unwrap UV modifier, and first of course you should go here on the bark and just press this show shaded material in viewport. Okay, so now you see that we're beginning to see the material, but still it looks weird because the UVs are really stretched. So now I'm gonna open the UV editor, and now you can see the UVs. The quickest way to do this, and that's why I said that you should try to do a low poly version of the trunk, more low poly that you initially want, because it's easier to make inside 3ds Max the UVs for the low poly trunk, and then you can very easily add additional triangles. If you put too much chamfers on these sections here and here, for example, later when you try to pelt this mesh, it would be really hard to do it. Okay, so now I'm just going to uncheck this map scene. I'm gonna expand with this button here, and I'm gonna select edge and go here under seams and click edit seams. And now really quickly I'm just gonna click and create an edge seam. And the reason that I do this now is because sometimes if I just click relax on this square shape like polys, UVs, it won't really work. So usually it saves me some time to just quickly add this seam. Just click convert edge selection to seams, and then just click one face of the tree trunk, expand the face selection, and just click pelt. Alright, so now we should only apply a little bit of relax. Okay. And now you can see that now the texture, it's tiling pretty nicely on our tree trunk. And one good trick is that each UVs should be placed that way that they're not overlaying on top of each other or intersecting, because later it would be really hard if you have to edit or scale one branch, for example, because if you collapse this modifier and decide to edit the UVs again, every time when you click the expand face selection on a separate branch, it would select all the UVs. So it's a good idea to keep them positioned away from each other, and that will really make your work easier down the road. Okay, so this one is ready. Just don't forget about these UVs here. Okay, so yeah, this is ready. Now the smoothing groups are not very good in this one, so I'm just going to select as a submesh the whole trunk, and I'm gonna go here under smoothing groups, click clear all, and just assign one smoothing group for the whole trunk. Now it looks a lot more smoother, and generally it's a good idea to just go around and apply some additional geometry when you think that it's needed. For example, like this edge here, it's too rough looking, so you should just click on one of the edges, press whoop, and then go to chamfer and apply a chamfer. So yeah, now it's starting to look much nicer. And something that you need to do, it's to scale down a bit the end of the trunk, because right now it has the same wide width everywhere. So just go and really quickly just select all the vertices, and with the scale tool just scale them a bit, and you can scale in the other direction, the lower part of the trunk, make it a bit more massive. Now I'm just gonna add with the connect some more geometry here. And now what I like to do with the trunks to really add some detail in the lower part of the tree is that this is what I do. I just select these two edges and I just apply a chamfer with two segments. After I've done that, I just go and inset them a bit inside the trunk. So when you do this a couple of times, it would really create this organic looking, just a quick tip: if you need to move any vertices on the trunk and you don't want to mess the UVs too much, just go here and click this preserve UVs option, and then you see that when I move the vertex, it would distort much in smaller amount the UVs. So yeah, it's a really useful option, because otherwise when you decide to move something, yeah, you see the results. Yeah, so basically I just go and apply some chamfers on the lower part of the tree. Sometimes you can play around and add some variety. So for example, this one won't be so high like the other one. You can remove edges by just selecting them and pressing and holding Control and pressing the backspace key. That's a very nice shortcut that will speed up your workflow inside Max if you don't know this trick. So yeah, basically I won't spend too much time on this, because we need to focus on the other part of the tree. But yeah, just by making this additional geometry here on the lower part of the trunk, you can make it look really nice. And later, of course, you can make a blend texture like I showed you in the previous lessons, and you can paint with some moss here to make it look even better. So anyway,